right, everyone, we're about to go ahead and get started. Please take your seats.
Good morning. I think my mic is live. Well, welcome. I'm John Ahmann, lead the Westside Future Fund. We're very privileged to host the Transform Westside Summit, so I want to thank all of y'all for coming here this morning. My co-host Ebony is taking a little summer vacation, so I am solo this morning. So thank you for joining us. I always like to begin our Transform Westside Summit with a reminder that we are live. So we're now broadcasting live on our social media feed. And there is one person who is watching, I think, and I wanted to do a special shout out. Many of y'all may know Bill Bowling. So he recently had to go through some medical treatment, but he told me he was going to tune in this morning. So Bill, if you're watching, we're all thinking about you. And I also like to start our summits with welcoming anyone that is here for the first time. I think I see a row of people that may be here for the first time. And if you're here for the first time, would you please raise your hand so we can welcome you? All right. Well, thank you. And just a little bit about our program for our first-time visitors. I'm going to go through a couple introductory comments. We always have a devotion at our Transform Westside Summit, so we got a great devotion speaker I'm going to talk about in a moment, Michael Cortez. And then today's discussion hasn't been with us with a bit, but Michael Lucas, who leads the Atlanta Volunteer Lawyer Foundations. They do amazing work, bringing in pro bono legal work to help people who are being illegally evicted, who live in awful conditions with tenants who don't do right by them, domestic violence issues. But I always think of lawyers as kind of the modern knights, so they're out there doing great work across the west side and other parts of our city. So we're going to have a great discussion with Michael as well. And also, and I forgot to mention, once we get done with the devotion, we're going to do some self-introduction. So that'll also be a part of our program this morning. As a reminder, we would love for you to subscribe to our e-newsletter. And I think a slide comes up that shows yes. So we got great stories, updates. If you want to share something that's going on the West Side in our newsletter, please let us know. We want to use it as a real community resource. So please subscribe. And the next part of our program I'm excited about because I know we have some people that are here a part of it, but we wanted to specifically talk about our home ownership program. So our Home on the West Side, has 3 components. I'm going to talk about the home ownership component this morning, but it has an anti-displacement tax fund for legacy homeowners. We pay all their tax depreciation so they can stay in their homes if they choose. We have rental program, and we're bringing on even more rental later this year. And then both renovated and new homes. Our Home on the West Side, to really support legacy residents, anyone that qualifies to go in their home, they need to qualify against our community retention guidelines. So have you lived in the neighborhoods? Do you work in the neighborhoods? Or did you graduate from Booker T. Washington High School or one of the local HBCUs? So those are our criteria to qualify for Home on the West Side. We've got a great team, raised, Tamika and Nicole. So if you, yes, they are deserving of spontaneous applause. Thank you. And another really special part about our home ownership program is we price all of our homes at what they cost us to develop them. So the land cost, the development cost, but then to help folks, once they qualify for mortgage, afford to get into that home, down payment assistance. So we work with the City of Atlanta. We offer our own philanthropy, but we give a lot of buy-down power as part of our Home on the West Side program. So these are homes that are all available for sale right now. And so if you would be interested or you see someone, so 829 North Avenue near Katherine Johnson Memorial Park, James P. Brawley Drive, that's been a major focus of our redevelopment efforts, James P. Brawley Drive. So 407 James P. Brawley Drive. 550 Paynes Avenue, one of our smaller, because of small lots, 559 English Avenue. And I think we got, was there one more? 510 Lindsay Street. And 783 Pond Street. Yep. All right, thank you. So again, if you're interested, people that are interested, please follow up with us. Please stay connected with us on social media, both social media feeds. And then I think now is when we want to move. And also as a reminder, at the very end of the Transform Westside Summit, we have, we'll do a drawing. So you were given a ticket when you walked in, and we have a gift certificate for Goodwill of North Georgia and the Home Depot. So at the very end of the summit, that'll be our last thing we do, is call out that ticket to win a gift certificate. So to ground, we're now going to move to our community-led devotion. We always draw inspiration from Nehemiah. And for those that are new, I know many of y'all have heard me say this many times who've come to our summits before, but we draw inspiration from Nehemiah, who in the Old Testament went back to Jerusalem to rebuild the city. And so the metaphor is, how you collectively come in to rebuild a city, brick by brick, how people work together. And the interesting thing about it, that for me about the story is the first part of the story is about the physical rebuilding, but most of the story is about building community and a common set of values. And so we just draw inspiration from that story as part of our devotion. And it always begin with a level set that you can read behind me, but also want to read it out loud. And then I'm going to introduce our devotion speaker. It's become our tradition to begin our meetings with a positive, inspirational message from a member of our community, recognizing that many in our community are driven by their spiritual faith to participate in the West Side revitalization effort. The time at the beginning of our meetings is an opportunity to share various inspirational reflections. While the speakers may articulate their personal faith, it's meant to be inclusive, inspiring, and meaningful, with the story of Nehemiah as our guide. So I'm really grateful for Michael Cortez. I'm going to say a few words about you before you come up. But back to the Nehemiah story, part of it was making Jerusalem safe again for residents that live there. And so that's why I love when our devotion speakers come through our Home on the West Side program. And I know you are living on Griffin Street. And we're grateful for that. But Michael is a data research analyst, also a storyteller, a strategist, using data as a bridge to equity. He works at the Morehouse Innovation Entrepreneur Center. He helps make support systems more visible and accessible, empowering Black founders across Atlanta through tools like his interactive map of 59 business support organizations. Michael's commitment to inclusive innovation is not just professional, it's deeply personal. As a proud single-family renter through Home on the West Side, Michael exemplifies what it means to invest in the community he serves. His work and life are grounded in a vision for a more connected, equitable West Side. As a first-generation college student and someone personally impacted by the justice system, Michael brings profound empathy and authenticity to every space he enters. His journey is a testament to the power of transformation and purpose and how lived experience can fuel systems change and inspire others. So let's give Michael a big warm welcome to lead us in a devotion. Come on up.
Before I get started, check. Before I get started, I just want to ask everybody, how are y'all doing? Great, awesome, beautiful. Now, my second question is, what brought you here today? Just blurt it out like y'all did before. Relationships, okay. Anybody else? Support, beautiful. Anybody else? Well, I'll tell you what brought me here today. It's not just the opportunity to be on stage and speak in front of a crowd, which helps me in my personal brand, but it's community. It is community that keeps us together, that moves us forward, that answers the questions that we may have, and provides solutions to the problems that the community has. It is the community that will serve the community, that will build the community and work for the community. So I thank you all for being here today. And for those who are working with Westside Future Fund or even in adjacent organizations, thank you for the work that you do in the communities that you serve, because it truly takes all of us to make it better for all of us. So thank you. I'm gonna go into my speech now. Is that all right? Appreciate y'all. Friends, neighbors, and fellow dreamers, it's an honor to stand before you today, especially as we gather in a place that resonates so deeply with the spirit of revitalization and hope, our own historic West Side. When we look around, we see the tangible results of dedication, community, and an unwavering belief in a brighter tomorrow. Today, I want to share a story from ancient history, a story that, despite being thousands of years old, speaks directly to our hearts and our efforts here. It's the story of Nehemiah. Nehemiah was not a builder by trade. He wasn't a politician, nor a general. He was a cupbearer to a powerful king, a position of trust and intimacy, but far removed from the rubble and despair of his homeland. Yet, when he heard that the walls of Jerusalem, his beloved city, lay in ruins, his heart was broken. Imagine that feeling, hearing about something so fundamental, so vital to your heritage and your identity being shattered. Nehemiah's first response wasn't to rush in with a hammer and nails. No, it wasn't. And I think the first thing that we all should do whenever we have a problem or we're contemplating how to solve it is to do what Nehemiah did, and that is to pray. He sought guidance, wisdom, and strength from something far greater than himself. And then he took a bold step, as you must. He approached King Xerxes, a king who had the power of life and death, and asked for permission, resources, and safe passage to go and rebuild his home. This wasn't a small request at all. It could have led to his death. He could have been seen as insolent, but he decided that this mission was more important than his safety. It was an act of immense courage, born from a deep purpose. When he arrived in Jerusalem, he didn't find a perfectly organized construction crew. He found people who were discouraged, people who were fragmented and living in fear. The walls of his home were not just physical barriers. Their absence represented brokenness, vulnerability, and a loss of identity. But Nehemiah, with a vision in his heart and quiet strength in his resolve, began to rally the people. He showed them the ruins, not to wallow in despair, but to ignite a shared vision of what could be, just like our West Side. He reminded them of their heritage, their purpose, and their collective strength, just like our West Side. And then the work began. It wasn't easy, okay? It was not easy. There was opposition, mockery, and threats. others to intimidate them. But Nehemiah, with incredible leadership, organized the people. He gave each family, each group, a section of the wall to rebuild, literally putting the future of their city in their hands. Tools in one hand and weapons in the other to defend themselves from those who did propose threats to them from rebuilding their city. A testament to their unwavering commitment and their determination to protect what they were building. And here's the truly awe-inspiring part. In just 52 days, the walls were rebuilt. 52 days. Come on, y'all. I need y'all to walk with me now. Let's do a little math, all right? If you add 5 plus 2 together, that equals 7, right? All right. And for those who know what happened on the 7th day of creation, we know, God rested, okay? After constructing the universe. And like God, this wasn't just a construction project. It was a miracle of unity, perseverance, and faith for all. But like God, Nehemiah's work did not stop there. He understood that rebuilding the physical walls was only one part of the construction. He also led spiritual and social reforms, helping the people remember their values, their identity, and their connection to something larger than themselves, much like this summit we are at here in this morning. Who woke up early and was tired but still got here today? Me. He helped them rebuild not just the city, but their very spirit. Now, why does this ancient story resonate so powerfully with us today? Especially as we reflect on the incredible revitalization efforts here in our historic West Side. Like Nehemiah, many of us have seen what was broken, what was neglected, what needed a helping hand. We've felt that same ache for restoration, that same longing for a stronger, more vibrant community. And just like Nehemiah, we've witnessed individuals and groups with diverse skills and backgrounds coming together, from grassroots organizations to dedicated city planners, from local businesses investing in their neighborhood to residents volunteering their time and energy to lawyers protecting people from eviction notices and whatnot. Each of you in your own way has been a Nehemiah, and I thank you for that. You face challenges, perhaps not physical threats like Nehemiah, but certainly doubts, obstacles, and moments where the task seemed very overwhelming, yet you persevered. You've worked with a shared vision. You understanding that every brick laid, every new initiative launched, every community garden planted contributes to a larger, more beautiful community. The rebuilding of the West Side is not just about buildings and infrastructure, no. It's about restoring pride, fostering connections, creating opportunities, building community. It's about ensuring that this vibrant part of our city not only stands strong, but thrives, offering a rich future for generations to come. So as we leave here today, let the story of Nehemiah be an inspiration to us all. It reminds us that one person with a vision and a prayer, of course, can ignite a movement. Unity and collaboration put together can overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles. True revitalization extends beyond physical. It must touch the heart and soul of a community. With determination and unwavering spirit, even the most ambitious dreams, despite pitfalls, brick walls, doubts, and opposition, can become a reality. So let's continue to build, to uplift, knowing that our collective efforts are creating a legacy of strength, resilience, and hope, just as Nehemiah did for Jerusalem, and just as we are doing for our beloved West Side. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Michael, that was awesome. Thank you. I love your authenticity, and also really appreciated your metaphor about revealing, so something that once was, and restoring pride based on the amazing history of the West Side. So thank you for bringing that to life this morning with your devotion. I also appreciated I live in Vine City, and often, drive around, it can just feel overwhelming, everything that needs to be done to kind of restore the community. And then I have to remind myself, I'm just one part of this brick. I just have to focus in on my part and trust God to help bring all those other parts together, because everything we need is in this city to restore that pride. So let's thank Michael again for that great devotion. All right, well, back to building community. So for those that are here for the first time, this is a really, really important part of our summit, because to transform that Westside, back to our devotion this morning, building community to put those bricks in place. So we need to know each other. And so what we do in every single summit is we take the time for folks to stand up to say their name, their affiliation, and then they stop, because we have a lot of people to get through. And if you have more you'd like to say or announce, we want to support that through our newsletters and other mechanisms. But I really would, and for those that are here for the first time, it's really amazing the diversity of people that come here. And so as people self-introduce, you could think, well, maybe I'm trying to advance something back to the brick I'm trying to build. This person maybe could help me, or vice versa. And so we really want to take the time to build this community through these self-introductions. So what I'll do with the microphone is go row by row. And if you're a veteran, to hold it close to your mouth when you speak, because the mic doesn't, if it's down like this, the mic won't pick it up. So hold it close, and we'll go row through row and give everyone a chance to self-introduce. And I know I'm going to start with someone who knows the routine. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Leroy Wright. I'm the senior pastor of First Thessalonian Missionary Baptist Church, and I'm a guest of Anthony Bellows.
Yes, sir. Well, you got called out, so we'll let you introduce.
Good morning. I'm Anthony Bellows. I'm a friend of Leroy's, and I'm a legacy resident of English Avenue. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Matthew Coleman. I'm with VI Capital Lending Group. I'm glad to be here.
Good morning. My name is Sandra Bush, and I'm a legacy resident of the Booker T. Washington neighborhood.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Keisha Sullivan. I'm with Integral, and I am the new Community Engagement Coordinator for the Westside Future Fund.
Good morning. My name is Mackenzie Smith, and I'm an intern at Integral Group this summer.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jessica Washington, and I'm the Director of Sociology and Community Transformation with the Integral Group.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Myrna Clayton. I am a founder and executive director of Showability. We support talented performing artists with disabilities.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kendall Cunningham. I am the Director of Development for the Study Hall. We're a nonprofit that provides free after-school care and summer camp programming to over 200 scholars, K through 5. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you. That's you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Tasha Helm, CEO of Optimal Metamorphosis Group. We create biometric technology as well as provide services, and I am a member of the Gathering Spot, and I want to say good morning to everyone that I know either through Atlanta Beck Chambers or the Gathering Spot or Russell Innovation Center for Entrepreneurship. Thank you. I am invited by Daryl Peak.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Makara Rumley. I'm the founder and CEO of Hummingbird. We are a consulting firm. We provide community engagement, data analytics, and systems change training.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Trevor Gunter, and I'm an English Avenue resident.
Good morning. I'm Rue Gunter. I am also an English Avenue resident and the Director of Business Development at Oaks ATL Community Development.
Morning, my name is Anike Lemchiku. I am the founder of LaPapo. It's focused on care coordination for families of children with disabilities.
Right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Archie Emerson. I'm the broker and owner of Dedicated Realty Incorporated, and I'm also one of the brokers that help move the property for Westside Future Fund, and I'm the past president for the Empire Board of Realtors.
Good morning. I'm Leela Gill with the Empire Board of Realtors, Women Council, VA Rep, and NID Housing Counseling Agency. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dana Brown, and I'm Director of Parenting and Adoption Support Services with Families First.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Mobley. I'm an English Avenue resident and a member of Blockchain Terrace.
Good morning, y'all. My name is Kai Harris. I lead community outreach at the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Great, thank you.
Good morning. I'm Carol Waddy with Chick-fil-A.
Bob Butler, co-op Anchor Real Estate.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Stafford Shanklin with T. Dallas Smith & Company.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Nicholas Leadham with T. Dallas Smith & Company.
Morning, everyone. My name is David Holden. I'm with T. Dallas Smith & Company, and happy to be here.
Morning, everyone. My name is Avion Shepard. Guess where I'm from? T. Dallas Smith & Company.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Eden Bimon, and I'm with T. Dallas Smith & Company.
Good morning, everybody. I'm T. Dallas Smith, and I'm proud to be the chair of the board of the Westside Future Fund.
Good morning. My name is Roman Stamps. I'm a sophomore at Morehouse College. I'm with T. Dallas.
Morning, everybody. I'm Marco Gonzalez, and I'm a student at Georgia State and with T. Dallas.
Good morning, family. I'm Tillman Ward, President of Community Resources of Atlanta, based in historic Vine City, gateway to greatness. And with your continued help, we'll still have great examples of the humble to the phenomenal.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Stephen Mucci, Oakland City resident, and I run a video production company called Roadrunner Films.
Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Laura Janvier, and this is my first time attending a summit.
Good morning. I'm Lisa Dotson, and Laura actually invited me here, so this is my first time as well.
Good morning. My name is Anya Wiedenbeck. I'm a homeowner in English Avenue.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Shisha Hapta, and I'm a homeowner at English Avenue.
Good morning, everyone. I am Mia Yehuda. I am a realtor supported by Keller Williams, West Atlanta, and I'm also a homeowner in the West End.
Good morning, everyone. Happy to be here. I'm Perrin Bostic, and I'm a candidate for Atlanta City Council, District 3.
Good morning. I'm Lakeisha Eze. I'm the mortgage loan officer at Self Help Credit Union located at the corner of Ralph David.
Grand Rising, everyone. How we doing today? Yeah, all right. My name is Rebecca Collette. I'm the CEO of Collexium, which is a fully vertical cannabis company based in Michigan, Maryland, New York, and now here in Georgia. I'm also a real estate developer. I've developed properties in Michigan, Maryland, and now here in Atlanta. I've been here for about 15 years. Happy to be here and looking forward to connecting with everyone.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kashi Sehgal, and I'm CEO and founder of Cortez. We're a hyper-local distributor that works only with local farms. We also bring affordable fresh food access to our neighborhoods across the state.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kamal Grant. I'm a business analyst at McKinsey & Company, and I'm a former alum of, current alum of Morehouse College.
Hello, everyone. Michael Tyler, Georgia Tech, HEDC.
Thank you.
Good morning, Devin Milligan with the Bobby Dodd Institute, a nonprofit 5013C focused on empowering individuals with disabilities to achieve their full potential.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ellis Axon, also the Senior Director of Bobby Dodd Institute.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Marvin Bussey with Teens at Work.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ebony Charlie. I'm the owner of Trinity Financial Management Solutions, where I provide accounting and bookkeeping services to small businesses as well as households, and future resident of the West Side.
Hey everybody, I'm Sean Watwood. I am a proud English Avenue resident and a
Westside Future Fund evangelist. I'm also Senior Director of Corporate Philanthropy for Morehouse School of Medicine.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ashley Todd. I am an Ashview Heights resident, and I am in fund development with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital.
Happy Friday. I'm Tasha Ford. I'm a community engagement consultant and also proud alum of Clark Atlanta University.
Good morning. I'm Alicia Grimes. I am the Chief Administrative Officer of the Atlanta Police Foundation.
Good morning. I'm Takesha Charles, the Real Estate Program Manager for the Atlanta Police Foundation.
Good morning, you guys. My name is Izzy. I am a Hunter Hills resident, a private yoga instructor, and licensed realtor.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Cleon Gray. I am Izzy's husband. She brought me here. Really excited to be here. Great to meet everyone. You guys are very, very cool. I am also a design program manager at Amazon.
Go this way. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. Neil Shorthouse with Partners in Change. Personal, economic, and social upward mobility is what we're about through life coaching.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kenyatta Johnson. I am a commercial broker with Century 21, also the president for the Morehouse Real Estate Alumni Association, and I know T. Dallas as well.
Good morning. I decided to throw off my sport coat today so I could look a lot more like T. Dallas. And my name is Bob Dickinson, and I have a foundation called Steam Sports Foundation. We provide scholarships to young women of color who want to get into motorsports engineering. And this past week we announced our 8 new college recipients, which gives us 21 total, $135,000 worth of scholarships. And we were really trying to make a difference.
Good morning. I'm Charles Merriweather, representing Goodwill, where we put people to work.
I guess you want to do one more time for all the new people?
Hey everybody, my name is Michael Cortez. I am a C&P R&D. We have created the world's first robotic joints that moves like a ball and socket joint, patent technology as well, and of Michael Cortez Omni Media, where I do hosting, moderating, and voiceover. So please connect with me on LinkedIn, Michael Cortez.
All right, we got to keep rolling that.
I hate following that, and I am Michael Lucas with the Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundation.
And you got into our guest row, so you got to introduce.
I'm Brandon Brando. I'm with TMPAV. I'm using the timer right now. Thank you.
All right, I know some folks may have come in. I want to give everyone a chance who would like to self-introduce. So if you didn't get a chance to introduce, you want to introduce yourself, raise your hand. I can bring the mic to you. Did I miss anyone who wants to be? I see people helping point me. In the back? There's someone in there. Anyone in the back? We all good? I'm getting pointed, but I don't see a hand. Okay. All right, thank you. And I also want to thank our crew TMPV, so let's give it up. They do a great job for us. And then our Westside Future Fund team at various tables, so thank you. And I saw, thank you, Karawati. Thank, as always, the Chick-fil-A complimentary breakfast. Compliments of Chick-fil-A, so thank you for Chick-fil-A. So when we did those self-introductions, I was curious, did anyone hear someone get introduced and say, hey, that sounds interesting. I'd really like to know that person. Raise your hand if you kind of thought that in your inner narrative. All right, so one of your assignments could be, whoever you thought that about, when the summit is over, to go introduce. Right? That's how we build these bricks, by building community, by working collaboratively together. So I'd encourage you to do that. So thank you for taking the time. And now we're going to transition to our program speaker, Michael, and I'm going to read a little bit about Michael's background, and then he's going to come on up to the stage. But Michael is Executive Director of the Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundation. He oversees all of their operations, fundraising, and delivery of free legal and social services to thousands of low-income Atlantans each year. With a JD from the University of Berkeley and an MSW from UT Austin, Michael blends courtroom skills with deep empathy, focusing on the people behind every case. Under Michael's leadership, the Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundation Eviction Defense and Standing With Our Neighbors program have helped hundreds of West Side families keep safe, stable housing. He also serves on the board of House ATL and the steering committee of Archie, aligning housing, health, and equity efforts across our city. So please join me in welcoming Michael. So come on up, Michael. Thank you. Thanks. All right, so we've worked on this presentation. A lot of information this morning. So, you were last here 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Was that it?
Yeah.
Early years, place-based work. There have been a lot of changes.
Yeah.
Catch us up on major developments with the Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundation, coming back from the 8 years ago.
Right. Sure, and grateful for the opportunity to do so. It is, I was reflecting on it, and it's a little emotional because when I was here on this stage, like you said, about 7 or 8 years ago, it really was kind of the first step, or right after our first success. So what I like to think of is a pretty transformative change for the organization. It has definitely been a journey, as you alluded to, but from an organization that was admittedly pretty insular in the legal community. AVLF has been around for 46 years, almost 47 now, to one that was truly, genuinely community-based. And that has been, really right now, I think we're getting close to where we wanted to be for that. So that's about a decade-long journey. But it started, as I talked about, kind of 8 years ago here. If you recognize where the green boundary is, that's Thomasville Heights. Specifically, it's the attendance boundary for Thomasville Heights Elementary School. And so in 2016, we launched our first community-based, neighborhood-based, school-based program. It was a partnership with Thomasville Heights Elementary School, John, as you know well, because we were focused on enrollment turnover. All right, student transiency in the schools. Purpose-built Schools was getting ready to run Thomasville Heights at that time, and it had about a 44% enrollment turnover rate. And we thought, I think we're pretty humble, particularly for lawyers, about the difference that we can make and recognizing going into communities humbly. But in that case, we had taken cases. I had practiced, if you will, in Forest Cove across the street, representing clients there. And so we knew, hey, we think maybe we can help you with this enrollment turnover rate. And what that looked like was putting our first neighborhood-based staff, a lawyer, teamed with a community advocate who was a social worker, and their only focus was how do we bring down the enrollment turnover rate by addressing the housing conditions and the housing evictions across the street. And every student at Thomasville Heights lived in Forest Cove. And Forest Cove has had a lot of history. If you've been paying attention, a lot has changed since then, much of which was tragic, and we were involved in helping with that as much as we can. But for the first few years, we were part of what started to be a real turnaround for the school, if you followed that in the first few years. And originally, these were animations that would pop up for the reveal, but the headline is in that first year, we thought we were just going to build trust and relationships, John and our team did, but we also brought down the enrollment turnover rate by 36% in that first year. Admittedly, it was incredibly hard, but also perhaps a little easier there because we just had to focus on one bad actor, right? And eventually the word got out that every tenant will get a lawyer. And they eventually, as Casey Family Programs later kind of reported on and published, we kind of virtually ceased all the evictions at Forest Cove once we were there 2 years. Obviously, other things happened kind of beyond our control, and y'all have seen how that has played out in recent years, but that was really the start. We didn't know if we were onto something or not, to be honest, but fast forward, I mentioned it was a journey. That expanded us to now 8 other schools, but here's some of the first results in the early schools. A lot of this data and tracking got really weird during COVID. You can imagine student transiency rates. So this is where we have the most solid data, and these are the reductions that we were able to achieve and the involuntary exits from those schools mid-school year. And if you know anything about the impact that has on kids, it has incredible impacts, even long-term on graduation rates, right? So, and John, I'll remind you, at Hollis, where we started to partner once we expanded to Hollis, we were able to bring the exits down 25%. Again, it was hard to duplicate those first results at Thomasville Heights because you're not just dealing with one landlord, but this really changed the organization too. It was transformative for us. As I mentioned, we're now in 8 schools. It had a lot of other kind of wild steps in the journey, but eventually this is kind of the footprint for that neighborhood-based work. So these are roughly the boundaries of where we do that neighborhood-based work. We serve the county, but here we have staff, and as we grew, it was teams of a lawyer paired with 2 social workers, and kind of each of, these are really 3 zones, although it's hard to tell. That really started the change for the organization, John, over the last 8 years. It brought other things that were unexpected, particularly when I was in social work school. We got media coverage about this that helped with the expansion since, where Gail King called our attorney and some guy named Michael Lewis a hero, but I'll take it. Like, I've been called worse. She got my last name wrong, but that's okay. We kind of got, I think, our first step into being looked to as a thought leader and being involved in this issues of evictions. This was also an animation, it kind of where I could reveal
what did that say? 5th
reveal
smartest?
The punchline. But I think you can tell I'm the 5th smartest author on this Federal Reserve study.
Right.
So we got to be involved in things like that. This was me just mainly explaining to smarter people, the eviction process. But I got credit there. And then it also meant one day I found myself in a room across from Thomasville Heights with a couple of people you might recognize. I've added some help there, Bill and Melinda and Shirley, and then that's me, and to get to talk about these issues and the impact that stuff like what a lawyer can make a difference in, evictions and housing instability, can really connect to things that, for me, even as a lawyer, much more resident than some vague notion of access to justice, right? But school children, not just the individual kid, but the classroom too, right? And so it really fueled our partnerships with APS schools, including Hollis. It also kind of, I think, solidified our work as community-based and neighborhood-based, and being very, I'm going to connect with Michael about kind of data and maps, because I could tell that we both care about that in leading our work. In addition to the zones I told you before, we also have a pilot with the city of Atlanta. About 14, 15 municipalities around the country have started some work at least a pilot level, New York City being the first to have some kind of public support of access to counsel for evictions. And so Atlanta passed that, the city council passed that in 2022 and tapped us to kind of pilot that and figure out what's a model that's scalable for this in Atlanta. We don't necessarily have the public resources that New York City does for that to this yet, but these are the pilot zones where we have really intensive eviction defense work in addition to kind of the school-based work. And so you can see where those are, putting those together. This is now AVLF's footprint, which is together is this great design here. I thought about getting this as like a tattoo, but it looks really, it's a strange kind of shape, but this is our place-based work now, and where we have offices as well. So the 8 schools that we're in, this is where we are now, John, since that first one at Thomasville Heights when I was here before. And not to bury the lead, as I mentioned last month, our headquarters now, kind of completing that transition. We're no longer downtown. Our headquarters are at the intersection of Boone and Lowry and the Quest buildings there. I like this building. Leonard actually put us in this one, the smaller one. It's not quite as pretty, but it's ours. And we're really proud to be kind of a partner there and have our headquarters right here in the community. And for a lot of reasons, including that while it's a small investment, the capital we have to invest, I much more prefer doing our part to invest in the restaurants around the area. And my team goes to local green, and we can be here instead of investing in a high-rise downtown. And kind of completing that journey, John, we have the office on the west side and kind of a second headquarters at Pittsburgh Yards. Because if you kind of could follow those maps and where all the schools are that we're in, they are, most of the schools are within 5 minutes of Pittsburgh Yards. So that's another good place for us to have some team members from which we're more accessible to clients, but it's also easier for us to reach our clients readily. So a bit of a journey, lots of twists and turns, but this is where we are now.
It's amazing. exactly why your work is so important. Especially in high-poverty schools, families are chasing rents. So you get a high rate of what's called, the technical term is displacement. And so when you heard Michael say, Thomasville Heights had a very high rate of displacement, so imagine you're a teacher, your class literally is, 50% of your class is new by the end of the year.
That's right.
So what the studies show is when kids shift schools, they basically lose a grade. And so you have a very high churn, which makes, makes it very challenging. And what the volunteer, lawyers is slow down that eviction rate, because many landlords are operating basically illegally and how they evict people. Another thing you didn't mention why you're so great is Atlanta's leading law firms provide you pro bono attorneys. And that's how you really leverage up your work, is you connect outstanding attorneys who want to do some amount of free pro bono work with clients that otherwise wouldn't be able to afford their services.
That's right.
But you just shared your place-based work and where you focus and deliver your services have been really important to your transformation. Really want to compliment your leadership in getting it so much out into the community. And can you talk more about why neighborhood-based work is so important to you and the Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundations? And really also, given there's so much need out there, how you made decisions about where to focus your work.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and the reminder about the volunteer attorneys. It is in our name, so it's like somebody told you to remind me of that. That's good. We do have a staff of 60 now, so that transformation was going from a team of 10 about when that started to a team of 60 now, and so we do have staff attorneys and social workers, and proudly employ as many social workers as lawyers. But we're a demand letter to a slumlord on King and Spalding letterhead is a lot scarier than mine, and so our model has always been and has remained, we get those firms and those attorneys, not just King and Spalding, about 500 volunteer attorneys a year to engage in our work at various levels, including bringing cases when needed. So yeah, I appreciate the question, John, and these are now where all of those neighborhood-based offices are, right? And so, I mean, some of this obviously has been where we've been able to find partners and funders who are also engaged in those communities, but it has been also intentional about where the issues are, right? And we kind of have a lot of that journey was about how do we not make folks reach the courthouse or come to a downtown kind of traditional legal services office? How do we take down those barriers, those pitfalls and brick walls, as Michael said, which I'm going to use without attribution for the rest of my career. That was a really good turn of phrase. And so part of that is having these offices in the community, right, and being proximate. But the other part is kind of the history. So this is where we are, and these are where our clients are too over the last 5 years. Those are those two offices. And this has both we went there because already that's where the need was, and obviously we're helping more people because we're there now. And so it's, I think, a virtuous cycle. But this is another map that's important to me, and I think gets to your question, John. This is the original redlining map for Atlanta, 1930s. And so part of the reason this is getting kind of bigger picture, why it's important for us to look to kind of geography and history and the data around that when we come up with our solutions and where we're going to have them, is because the problems we're addressing in Atlanta, especially the problems deeply connected to race in Atlanta, are also follow a map that is deeply entrenched, right? And I'm not the first one to make these points, but in our work, we've tried to connect that up to not just kind of a shocking presentation, but also, okay, what's really behind that, right? And actually, Courtney English last month stole a little bit of my thunder with the maps, but he was right to make a lot of these points. This helps you, this is the same map, but kind of done in a way that's a little easier to see where we're talking about. And you probably have heard about redlining at this point, but this is where the federal government, and there's debate about whether private markets and industry followed the government or government followed them. Either way, they were both at play, and it was not a virtuous cycle, but the government said these neighborhoods are the hazardous ones, the ones in red, right? And that led to a lot of things, including who could buy there or how much it would cost to borrow money there, to live there, and then private markets, including lawyers. I appreciate your view of lawyers, but we haven't always been the good guys in these stories, and I try to be really clear about that, right, in our clients' lives. They enforce those through restrictive covenants, who could live explicitly by race, where, right? And maybe this is not new, but this tracks right up to those enrollment turnover rates that I'm talking about today. So this is another map that we look at and try to look at when we're deciding where to go. We don't have the luxury or the resources to go everywhere that we want to go. But this is the APS cluster model. John knows it well. There's Washington cluster. I do my own slides, so forgive the sloppiness. This was the best that I could show it. And what you have in the data there are the enrollment turnover rates. Those student transiency rates we're talking about were the 5 clusters that have schools with 30% or higher enrollment turnover rates. None of the schools north of those, none of the other clusters that I haven't highlighted there have any schools with enrollment turnover rates up to 30%. But these do. And the ones in red are those ones that are 30% or higher. And I think you recognize the map and where I'm going with this, right? If you don't, here's that map from redlining in the 30s. These are the most recent enrollment turnover rates. So this is today, y'all. There's a lag in them, but this is today. And this is, something, Courtney talked about it. We care deeply about it. I know the mayor is looking at trying to address enrollment turnover rates more directly in partnership with APS. But I think it's important to keep in mind where this comes from. And that's something that drives where we put our work. Making the through line, right? That's a shocking map, but it's not just coincidence. So this is all the maps aren't on the same scale or format, right? But the darker areas here are the cost of loans. That's not a coincidence. You saw that redlining map. Even though we just have these maps from 2010 and 2016, that was the case all the way up to the foreclosure crisis. The green dots are where the foreclosure numbers were highest. I think you're recognizing that kind of crescent swath across Atlanta in the maps. Then those REO properties bought by investors, vacant properties, blighted properties, eviction filings, race, just to make it clear if it wasn't already. All those follow the same track, and there's lots of people smarter than me that have written on why that happens, but these things are intractable, and I think for us as an organization, one, it's acknowledging that, and for me, acknowledging like the legal system's role in that, and lawyers' role in it, and therefore being humble about when we come into communities, but also letting this can drive solutions too of where we put our offices and make them more accessible. So bringing it right up to today, this month, these are eviction filings. I know this map is completely unhelpful, and that's on purpose because this is how many evictions have been filed in Fulton County so far this year as of June 25th. I don't have a big enough screen, even this one, to make the heat map really useful because there's so many, but I do have another map. So this is a little more helpful, I hope, the clusters. So if you can add up all those numbers that are kind of on the west side and then 20 and below up, you can see what overwhelming percentage of evictions in Atlanta, even just this year so far, follow that same map, right? And to bring it fully back to this issue that's driven us, right? The impact on schools and education. Oh, I'm going backwards. Those are the evictions in those 5 school clusters. Just this year. It's about roughly, I'm not good with math, but it's roughly 20% of the evictions filed so far this year in the entire Fulton County are in those 5 APS attendance zones. And you can see the specific numbers there. Here they are. There's 2 there with 40%. 43%, 46%, 41%. I mean, almost all the schools in the South Atlanta cluster. Don't know what that slide is. Carver cluster, where we started and are still in some schools that are doing a little better, like we are in and have been in the high school and the middle school. But you can see some of the schools that we're not in, and I'm not saying that's the reason, but there's still a lot of those issues. Mays, Washington, it continues in those 5 clusters. And I think Douglas as well. Since we were here, John, I added this one for the audience just to see that these are the evictions so far in English Avenue and Vine City. And so you can kind of do the math and see where they are. But the problems are very place-based and not by accident. And so it's important to us to kind of look to that to be where we would put our offices. So if we were to expand, nonprofits aren't exactly a moment of expansion right now, John, as you know. But if we were, these are the kind of things we would look at about where to put new offices and put new programs. And just, to put it all together, I think it's remarkable to see what a small portion of the county those 5 APS clusters are, along with that map that tells a lot of the history.
It's overwhelming.
You're welcome.
Yeah. For those of you that heard,
Oh.
I was telling you here last month when Courtney talked about Northside Drive being the racial dividing line. The way he talked about it was, you don't have to be active participants. The system is functioning as it was set up to function, many years ago. So all that needs to function, like Courtney said it was, for us to do nothing.
Yep.
Exactly what we see. Thank you for all that. What back to so much need out there. What have you and your colleagues learned?
Yeah. So a lot that is overwhelming, as you noted, and my apologies for doing that on a Friday morning as well. A lot of what we learn, and I alluded to, is what are the real life stories and how does, these maps and these kind of presentations, which again, I'm not the first one to make like an academic presentation about it, how does that really play out in a human level? What really is the through line? So one is education, and I think hopefully I've laid out that story, but we've seen it in the evictions, and not just the evictions, but the housing condition issues, right? Like things hopefully you can't imagine, just whole basements filled up with sewage, those other kind of things that kids are trying to study during, and how that affects education. But the other is health to that point. So our journey was both place-based and trying to figure out how can we connect this thing that we do to something that is more important on a day-to-day level for folks than like just the benefit of spending more time with lawyers, which may or may not be a benefit to folks. And so, there's a lot, again, written about the intersections to education and health, but we've really done as much, I think, on the intersection of health as we can, too. I think Courtney shared this map, too. You may have seen it before, the one in the middle. That's life expectancy. It follows the same maps that I've been showing you. And so you want to talk about kind of overwhelming and a gut punch. But for us, too, we're like, all right, well, what's really behind that, and is there's something that, in turn, we can do about that in a place-based fashion. One of the things we do is kind of look into it, right? So by volume, we do more conditions cases, John, than we do evictions. So mold, sewage, security deposits, and things like that, too, that are really important, but some pretty egregious conditions cases. And so over a 2-year period, we just tracked in Salesforce of all the housing cases, interactions we have in that neighborhood-based work where we had staff on the ground, how many had I made this up, some asthma-related housing issue, because we knew that that's not just mold, it's also disgustingly like the stuff that roaches leave behind, and so including just families already knowing that it was exacerbating the asthma. And you can see 64% of the cases that we dealt with for 2 years in this program had some element of that, right? From a notion the mom had that the kids' breathing is worse, there's a reason they keep going back to the emergency room for a pediatric asthma attack, to like, you didn't need that. You could just see the walls were black, straight up black. And so we've also not only kind of try to put our offices in those places, but have some specific partnerships that get at that. While we're on maps, this is a CDC, by the way, kind of, that's like a 100-factor index of health issues, and the darker or more red are poorer health. I think you recognize the map. And then there's this one, too. In terms, though, of what we've been trying to do about it, we have a partnership with both CareSource and Kaiser. A medical legal partnership is a thing that's been around for a while. Traditionally, it's putting a lawyer in a hospital to address issues. We have a little different take on it that I think is more aligned with our community-based work. Is we still have our teams in the community, but we partner with the payer, with the health plans, who I'd like to think have an incentive too to try to address these issues, to reduce how many times Tommy's going back to the emergency room for pediatric asthma. And so we have a team that works closely with both of these health providers to, referral doesn't do it justice, but they can share almost like case rounds with us who may be having this issue as a renter in Fulton County and in those neighborhoods. And then we go out and do kind of what we do. And because of their funding, it's not just the lawyer trying to get the mold addressed, but in the meantime, it's dropping off a dehumidifier or a box fan or scheduling pest control. We spend, in some years, about $50,000 a year on expert mold testing so that we have something to say back when the landlord just says, that's not mold, your client's just dirty, like they don't know how to clean, which pissed us off for long enough that we found an expert mold testing company, and now we have something to say back, which the tenant already knew. right? And so that's one way where we're trying to be intentional about it. We have a long way to go. That's an industry that's hard to turn into kind of new innovations, but it's a way that we could then say, hey, we really did bring down the emergency room visits, residents of the West Side for pediatric asthma because they didn't keep getting discharged to the same moldy apartment. Finally, John, the other thing that we learned is, you mentioned, I don't talk about it as much, and usually because our housing work is a focus, but we're also the largest provider of services to survivors of intimate partner abuse in Atlanta. We just do those two things now. It's another part of the evolution, so we can kind of go deeper on each issue. And since we started this community-based work, John, we try to figure out, all right, how do we do that same thing? We know how many people come to the courthouse. We run the office in the Fulton County Courthouse. Every survivor is sent there when they show up. It's about 2,000 a year seeking a legal protection. And then we have social workers there, and we do more than just that first order. But if you know anything, as shocking as that number is, right, if you know anything about domestic violence, that's not scratching the surface. 1 in 3 women in their lifetime experience domestic violence in most studies. And so how do we reach those folks that aren't making it to the courthouse? For a bunch of reasons. They're not making it to the courthouse soon enough. They're not making it to the courthouse because it's a pain, because it's intimidating, because as I said, people's last experience with a lawyer or the legal system wasn't positive. And I'm a privileged white male with a bar card, and I don't like going there. And we have an office there, and I get lost when I go there. So we had all this community-based work, and we think we finally figured it out. So this is just one. I don't want to say we have figured it out, but we're starting to, and that we have a mobile outreach unit now that's based out of, it's parked right there at the Quest offices at Boone and Lowry, and we have a team of social workers, and it is a mobile courtroom, so it purposely looks non-distinct, right, on the outside. It's not, John has this fancy Sprinter van that he goes around in on the weekends. This is just, nondescript. It could look like your plumber's, like a plumber's van or whatever on purpose, but inside, it's been upfitted, and it was donated generously by Mercedes-Benz Buckhead. Thank you to the Broncos. And then inside, it looks like a really nice office, and it is decorated, and you can't tell that it's in a van because it's also a mobile courtroom. So we can uplink right to the court. The survivor can go meet us in the Croker parking lot, like that's a true common story, and get their protective order. Either meet with our social workers, if that's the stage they're at, to talk about safety planning, or if this is even something they can do or should do. But then get the protective order and print it out right there in the van. And be represented from the van, but there's curtain. This team was good. They made sure it didn't look like you were in a van. And so we're doing that. It's just one van. We can't set when a crisis happens or when she can say she's going grocery shopping so she can meet with us, and we certainly can't set when the court hears the case. So there's definitely like potential to scale this right. But for us, it is, how do we reach those folks who weren't otherwise making it to the courthouse on this issue too? And then when it's virtual, she also doesn't have to be in the same room with her abuser, right? And so we think the potential for this is huge. Again, not a time of expansion for nonprofits, but this is kind of the latest part of our journey to be more community-based. And I think there's a picture of the interior, but that was before the team decorated it. You can kind of get an idea. Now it has like potted plants and even a modest kids' corner. There's not a lot of space, but with headphones and a tablet. So sometimes the kid has to come, but you don't want them to hear kind of the story that usually mom has to recount. So that's been another part of kind of how we decide what we do and where we do it. And in this case, it's wherever we're needed.
Yeah, that's a lot of great information. I thought we might do, such great information. I'm sure there's some questions out there, so maybe we could transition. So if you have a question of Michael, raise your hand, and a mic will be brought. So I see the first hand.
Good morning. My name is Kendall Cunningham. I am the Director of Development at the Study Hall. I love all that you said this morning about the resources that you provide to our communities. I'm just curious, how could I extend that, same information to the families that we serve in Collier Heights? Yeah, so for one, let's connect. And I think I've been at AVLF for 15 years. I know at some point connected with folks at the study. So one, let's just make sure we reconnect. Most of what we invest in, most of our resources are our staff. And a large percentage of those are folks that are just focused on community partnerships and community outreach. So really, short answer is that's the easiest way. You can go to our website
and find people's email addresses. But I'd be happy to connect with you so that our outreach team can make that connection. Yeah.
Hi, thank you very much for the information that you shared. I really applaud your efforts. Question two, well, it's a question that involves two populations. One, I support the disability community, so I'm curious if you look at data based on the disability community, and also because I'm commissioned by the U.S. State Department to represent American music at U.S. embassies around the world, I work with a lot of international. So I'm curious if your involvement is in any way connected with the immigrant community. And so those two populations, would like for you to speak to that.
Sure. So admittedly, we don't have kind of the same data, I guess, although I would be really interested in that on kind of the issue specifically in the population of disability. But it is not an uncommon issue in our cases to bring a reasonable accommodation request and for that to be the really live issue for the tenants that we serve. When I did practice, that was often the case. I mean, you can imagine, you don't have to imagine, you do this work, right, that it's hard enough, the kind of living conditions I've been talking about for our tenants, and we've had countless clients where in addition to that, they use a wheelchair for their mobility or have a child who does. And so one answer is that's absolutely part of our advocacy, and our attorneys are knowledgeable about the difference that can make. And it can make a lot of differences in terms of reasonable accommodations for even a defense to an eviction, right? So that's on one level, but we could get more sophisticated about it for sure. On immigrant, I'm proud to say we don't take the form of federal funding, legal services corporation funding that has restrictions on who we serve. So we can serve anybody without question of immigration status. Because of where we've focused in those neighborhoods, for all the reasons I've said, we don't have a high volume of that as compared to if we were in Gwinnett or DeKalb or admittedly some other sections of Fulton, and that weighs on me heavily, truly. We will do that work. We will go out and do Know Your Rights events and representation at complexes. A lot of times those are concentrated, it can be in Roswell. Again, it's not just in those neighborhoods, as you know well. But because of where we are geographically, our numbers aren't as high. I'm also married to the executive director of the Georgia Asylum and Immigration Network. So I care deeply about those issues and are versed. And our organizations do work together, not just because we're married, particularly around domestic violence as well, and the protections they can have there as victims of violence.
Good morning. Very good information. John Ross, next level team. We develop real estate, and we also set up 501c3s. I serve on the board of the Westside Health Collaborative, and I'm not seeing where we are connected to you.
Yep.
So I do want to know, do you have a relationship? We have over 161 agencies that are represented in the Vine City, English Avenue area that are providing services every day, and we're definitely focused on the things you talked about. So I'm not seeing where we are working with you, and if not, will you come in and talk to us?
Yeah. So I know that we have in the past. Not to overstate it, I will say, for one, as part of the other part of our journey from 10 to 60 is, despite my OCD, I don't always know everything that we're still doing in the community, even though I did when we first launched these programs. I do remember being part of the West Side Collaborative when we first launched at Hollis and that some of our neighborhood-based community advocates were. But if that has fallen off, I want to make sure that we correct that. But I remember in the past the meetings with Good Samaritan and others as we were kind of learning how to more directly address not just by chance families that had an asthma issue, but intentionally. So yeah, let's remedy that. And it is also, as often happens, I say something like that and I go back and the social workers say, we did that last week, but I'll make sure that I find out. Okay, thank you.
Hi, Reverend Leroy Wright. I have two questions. Initially, you said you were working with the Thomasville Heights group and you only had one landlord to deal with.
Yeah.
First question is, in the West Side, Vine City and Avenue, have you noticed a concentration of ownership of the properties by foundation institutions or commercial landlords? And the second question is, you had a chart that showed the redlining and one color was decline, and I didn't see any decline. Can you address those two questions?
Oh, I don't know if I could pull it up. I'm not sure I could address the second, and it'll be dangerous to address the first, but I'll try. So on one level, on the west side, absolutely, we saw a concentration, and on some levels we are now, but I'm glad to say from more positive actors, right? Oaks ATL, for example, and my friends there, and the folks that Westside Futures Fund partner with. But when we started this work on the west side, it was earlier in both of those journeys, and a lot of our work, and we kind of cut our teeth on some of the I'd say slumlord investors who had hundreds and hundreds of properties on the west side, depending how long you've been paying attention. Some of you could guess that some of them are familiar, who were holding on to those properties because of what was coming and the investment that was coming, but instead of just boarding them up and kind of being satisfied with being an investor and holding that property, which there's not theoretically nothing wrong with that. They were also being a landlord, and one that put $0 into it. And so, as John knows well, there's a lot of those actors on the west side. When I practiced, I knew them much better. I was personally pursuing them. I had kind of a vendetta with one of them. But that has been getting better over time, for sure. A lot of the single family kind of rental companies that are more large-scale investors that you read about in the papers, where they have thousands of properties, that's more outside of these in-town neighborhoods, generally speaking. So we see that more kind of outside of the inner core, and that has its own issues on the market and otherwise, although some of them are fine actors, some of them not as much. So that's my best answer for that, including that some of my information may be a little rusty on who the individuals are. And the other, I'll look at the maps. You may be testing my knowledge there on that one.
Well, sorry, we're about out of time, but I know Michael could be maybe around after if you have, and you can see deeply embedded in the community. But I want to make sure I ask you one question. With all the folks here, what does the Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundation need to further your work? So make sure you have a chance to let folks know what your organization needs.
Yeah, so I appreciate that, and I will say, and my development director would kick me if she was here, that if I could say anything of what kind of the city needs, it's more locally, responsibly managed, truly affordable housing like the Westside Future Fund and others are focused on, and that would be of no direct benefit to AVLF, but there's a market for the kind of landlords that we deal with because of the lack of, John and Westside Future Fund and others being able to do everything that they're trying to do. And so I always say that first. I wish I was a trust fund kid that could just develop affordable housing at 30 AMI and below, and there no longer be a market for what AVLF does. But getting to your question, which I'm grateful for, I mean, there's no sugarcoating what nonprofits are going through right now. We've lost a lot of federal funding, first from HUD for our housing work at the beginning of this year, and I suspect come October, and all of the federal funds that support our domestic violence work, which is some years 50% of our funding for that work. And so it's the obvious answer for a nonprofit leader, but it is much more the case now than ever, is obviously we need resources. I'd rather be in a time where we're not just figuring out how to survive and sustain these programs, which is admittedly where pretty much all nonprofits are now. But you saw those clusters, right? We're in the Washington cluster, we're in the Carver cluster, and only partially in both. We're in Hollis and Tuskegee. Tuskegee is a really exciting elementary school that we're in now. And we're in some schools in the Jackson cluster there. All those others that I showed you that are high needs, we're not there. We do serve the county, so we will serve them, but we don't have that embedded staff, and that takes resources. So, whether that's partnerships with the city and APS and some of the work that's going on there, or private foundations, obviously, this is a time where that's where we need it more than ever, and obviously for the legal community too, we need those volunteers because we can no longer, we're not going to go from 60, we went from 10 to 60. We're not going from 60 to 120 anytime soon, even if I wanted to, and so we're not going to be able to hire our way to address these growing needs because, John, and this will be the last thing I'll say, during COVID, these things got worse, from domestic violence to housing, as you know, or got more complicated, but there was more funding. for us and others, as a lot of you know. It's the opposite now. Domestic violence always goes up when there's financial insecurity and hard times. So do these housing issues, obviously, particularly as all of our other partners providing housing are getting federal cuts as well. But our funding is being cut as well. And so it's kind of the perfect storm. That's a little scary. So any help that can be provided, obviously, we're grateful.
Well, thank you for being shelter in that storm. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you. Appreciate you being here this morning. So Michael said he could hang around for a few more minutes. And we are now in the wind-up phase of our Transform Westside Summit. The last part of our summit, we said in the beginning, we're going to call out some numbers for a Home Depot gift card. So if you have number 419122, please announce yourself. 419122. No? Well, that would be too obvious. 419109. Yay, all right. A winner. And, uh-oh. We'll give you one too. All right, we can't take somebody away.
Arm wrestling.
Yes. We have you the Goodwill gift card. So everyone's got a gift card that had a number. All right. We're happy. Well, thank you everyone for being here. We'll be back the third Friday in August. Thank you. Have a great weekend, and thank you for being here. Man, you are a fountain of information.